Well, and I know a lot of people are looking at the center, Drew Dalman, to potentially bring in here as a free agent. We have some different names here of offensive linemen, not just interior, but just across the board that are available this year in free agency here coming up. And that's guard Trey Smith, obviously, that we just talked about. Tackle Ronnie Stanley, of Notre Dame fame, and offensive tackle Cam Robinson. Then, of course, as I mentioned, the center Drew Dalman, guard Will Fries, center Ryan Kelly, and then tackle Joe Noteboom. And I don't know for you, Adam, I'll start with you, and then Mark, if there's anybody that stands out. But Adam, for you, anybody on this list outside of Trey Smith, who we talked about, that you look at as a priority for the Chicago Bears?
I will. Cam Robinson was somebody I thought, I was hoping that we could have made the deal at the deadline to bring in a guy. What would it take to get him from Jacksonville? Because they were moving on, because they had a guy in waiting, which is we're willing to get rid of him. Then he goes to Minnesota. I don't remember being so impressed by him in Minnesota to think we really missed the boat on that one. I don't think he was terrible by any sense of the imagination, but I don't think that he really blew me away. Ronnie Stanley does. Again, he's coming from the Ravens, so you're okay, there's something about that I sort of like. Joe Noteboom for the Rams, I thought the Rams did a better job on the offensive line. That was supposed to be something that was detrimental to them. But at the same time, I would rather draft a tackle for me. I would rather be bringing in somebody who can play tackle. And when you talk about Gray Zebbel, that's somebody who plays all three positions, as a swing guy who can play any one of the three things. If he doesn't end up being the starting center, he could back up a tackle as well. I'm willing to give Braxton Jones the benefit of the doubt. I really am, because none of these guys really blow me away. Like Moses Brown or Skipper, Dan Skipper. You're I don't know that it helps. So again, I would rather focus on the guards, try to grab a tackle during the draft. But for me, it's the guards. I think that Braxton Jones is good enough to where there's nobody noteworthy enough from the tackle positions in free agency that screams this is the guy that we have to have. Not like Trey Smith is. So I would rather get the guards. I'd rather get the interior, but that's just my bias.
Well, I think it's interesting, Mark, with Ryan Kelly, who, here our chat was saying, Ryan Kelly's better in pass pro as a center. And then you got Drew Dalman. I do think it is important to bring in a veteran center. If you want to draft another center later in the draft, that's fine. Even in the second round. But I don't know how comfortable I am in a very pivotal year of Caleb Williams' development that you're going to have a rookie center. And there were some centers this year, one that went to Pittsburgh, I think out of West Virginia, that had some really good success. But I need to, but at the same time, I need to know going into training camp that you have a veteran presence there, that's a box that we don't have to worry about needs to be checked for Caleb Williams. That's going to help, because the quarterback center communication is just so pivotal. We've learned this through failure here over the last 4 years.
Caleb needs a center, knows exactly what he's doing, and can actually call out plays and make things easier for him. I think that's, if I was the Bears, that's how I would be looking at it. How can I take things off the plate of Caleb and make his job, just let him rely as much as he possibly can on that arm strength, on his maneuverability, on his ability to navigate the pocket, all those things. So I think that's a good underlining. The tackle part, Rank, it's I hear you, but are we punting on Karan Amagaji? That's a third-round pick that you drafted in a redshirt year.
That's fine.
That's
another great point.
Yeah, maybe you are, but if you are, that's horrible.
I don't know. He was forced into action, and I think they really didn't want to. It was just one of those situations we got to have somebody out there. I'm willing to, there's another guy too. That not that I'm these guys are locked in and we can't address the position, but at the same time, it's guys that I would be willing to give another shot to, as long as we get the center. And I know the Ryan Kelly thing, the injuries have really been the last 2 years where it's been really bad. And that's the one thing that I fear about Ryan Kelly is that, when you have guys that have struggled with injuries over the last couple of years, it really, I don't know. I don't want to get into a situation where we sign them. We did this with Ryan Bates too. And all these guys, brought him in, it makes a lot of sense. But then
Mhm.
he's injured the whole time, and you're like,
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I
and
don't know.
speaking of that, let me ask you guys this. Mark, I'll start with you. Any consideration to giving Tevin Jenkins a contract?
Yes, I would. Team friendly deal. I'd be in on Tevin.
Adam?
We talked about this on Wednesday, is that it never works out. Never. Like, somebody who's battled injuries and he's never been healthy for us. Like, why would we give money to somebody who's not been available? I don't know. A team friendly deal, I would listen to it. I like Tevin Jenkins as a person, as a human being, and I wish it would have worked out. But to me, it's very difficult to commit a lot of money to somebody who's had trouble staying on the field.
Yeah, it's a tough one because when he does stay on the field, he's an impactful offensive lineman. But I think just like with Jaquan Brisker, it's hard to then, write his name in marker or in pen, as Shane Marsaw would say, and then expect that. And you look what happened last year. Yeah, he's fighting through these injuries, but he can't finish games. So I think with Tevin Jenkins, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. If they sign him, he'll never stay healthy. If they don't sign him, he will be Mark Colombo and go to the Cowboys and have a good career the rest of his career. And then we'll be Bears fans crying about how we didn't re-sign him. So I'm not going to begrudge, the Bears, letting him walk. Blake in the chat here, I started Steven, where he said Mekhi Becton, Kevin Zietler, Dan Skipper, Alaric Jackson are all free agents. And I know those are some names being thrown out here in the chat. And I would just say, going back to the start of our show where I talked about how important it is that, Antoine Randall and JT Barrett followed Ben Johnson over here. And I think that's a testament to who Ben Johnson is as a coach, that they said, all right, I'm following you, Ben. See you later, Dan Campbell. Much respect to you. And I think the same applies for bringing offensive linemen in from the Detroit Lions. I'm not opposed to either of those names because they know Ben Johnson's system. They know what the standard is. And I think those are the kind of leaders you need in that locker room to help the rest of that offensive line get on board and get to an understanding of how they're going to execute this offense. And, the Lions are a well-oiled machine, that had 70 touchdowns on the year. And so I'm not opposed to any offensive lineman or offensive personnel, for that matter, that you want to bring over from Detroit that are going to help Ben Johnson kind of, get ahead of the game when it comes to getting a jump start with, building this offensive system here. I understand that it's going to be a different offense than what they did in Detroit, but I still think the foundational principles they'll be able to help carry over.
We all silly like the mayor.